Imagine walking through a garden at twilight. The sky is still glowing, the air is calm, and all seems serene. But beneath the beauty of the flowers, under the roots of the tall trees, something hidden stirs. Unseen forces move, not in light, but in shadow. That's what spiritual warfare often looks like to the naked eye. Peace on the outside, disturbance in the soul. And one of the most dangerous hidden tools in this unseen war is witchcraft. We speak of it in hushed tones, dismissing it as superstition, as folklore, as something that doesn't really concern the modern world. But the spirit world is not bound by the arrogance of human logic. It exists because it was spoken into being long before our rational minds began to dissect it. And when someone reaches into that spirit world with wicked intent, using rituals, symbols, and words to bend unseen energies against you, the impact is more than psychological, it's spiritual. What happens when someone uses witchcraft against you is not just manipulation of circumstance, but an attempt to distort divine order. Witchcraft is not merely casting spells, it's a rebellion against God's sovereignty. It's the attempt to take control of another person's mind, heart, or destiny without their permission and without divine authority. It's a spiritual assault, cloaked in secrecy, rooted in selfishness, and aimed at destruction. But here's what most people do not understand. Witchcraft requires agreement. Not always your verbal agreement, but a weakness, a doorway, a crack in your armor. It feeds on fear. It multiplies through bitterness. It gains ground through emotional pain left untreated. The more unaware you are of the battle, the more vulnerable you become to its effects. It is not always about curses and rituals done in candlelit rooms. Sometimes it looks like manipulation in relationships. It comes as envy dressed as friendship. It speaks through flattery, laced with hidden motives. And its goal is always the same: to drain your spirit, dull your discernment, and disconnect you from the voice of God. You see, when someone uses witchcraft against you, they're not just fighting you. They're positioning themselves against your purpose, your calling, your very identity. And while their weapons are invisible, their effects can be felt. Fatigue with no medical cause, confusion in the middle of clarity, heaviness in moments that should bring peace, or dreams that feel like torment. These are not coincidences. They are signals. But you are not left defenseless. God is not unaware. The spirit realm is not a battlefield where evil moves unopposed. There is an authority higher than every curse, every chant, every ritual. An authority that cannot be bribed, manipulated, or defeated. That authority is God's truth. What happens spiritually when someone uses witchcraft against you is this: a war begins. But it is not a war to fear, it is a war to recognize. Because what the enemy intends for harm, God allows for awakening. He uses it to sharpen your spiritual senses, to teach you discernment, and to lead you into greater intimacy with Him. So ask yourself, have you noticed strange patterns that drain your peace? Have you been tied to relationships that manipulate your emotions subtly? Do you find yourself constantly doubting your path, your identity, your purpose? These may be symptoms of a spiritual attack, and your awareness is your weapon. Spiritual atmosphere begins to shift. There are moments in life when everything around you looks the same, yet nothing feels the same. You walk into a room and sense a strange tension in the air. You try to pray but feel as though your words hit a ceiling. Your usual peace becomes elusive, as if stolen in the night by hands unseen. This is often the first sign that something has shifted in your spiritual atmosphere, and one of the earliest indicators that witchcraft has been sent against you. Witchcraft, in its true essence, is not a theatrical performance with bubbling cauldrons and flying brooms. It is subtle. It is hidden. It is deeply spiritual. It seeks to alter the environment around a person, not just physically but spiritually, by introducing confusion, heaviness, and darkness into the space they occupy. And often, before the victim becomes consciously aware, their spirit detects the change. This atmospheric shift is not felt in the skin, but in the soul. It is like a fog descending on a clear path, making once simple decisions seem complicated and turning joyful moments into burdens. The shift often begins with a sense of weariness, a heaviness in the chest, and an unexplained sense of dread. Your surroundings might still be familiar, but the presence within them has changed. It is important to understand that your spirit is sensitive by divine design. Long before your mind registers anything unusual, your spirit will detect what your eyes cannot see. God crafted your soul with spiritual receptors, discernment that serves as a warning system. But if you're too distracted, too exhausted, or too trusting of surface-level peace, you might miss the early signs. When someone uses witchcraft against you, what they are doing is releasing words, intentions, and spiritual forces to alter your environment. Sometimes it's fueled by jealousy, other times by control, and in many cases by generational darkness disguised as culture or custom. These actions are not innocent, they are invasions, aimed at shifting your atmosphere from one of divine alignment to one of spiritual disarray. This change can be subtle at first: delayed responses in prayer, difficulty focusing, or feeling emotionally off-center. Over time, it can deepen into chronic fatigue, conflict in relationships, or an overall sense that something is off without being able to name it. These aren't always just coincidences. Often, they are crafted interferences designed to distort your spiritual climate. Witchcraft cannot enter your life without finding something to cling to. It often searches for wounds, places in your heart that are still bleeding from betrayal, disappointment, or grief. It attaches itself to bitterness, pride, or unresolved trauma. Once it finds that foothold, it begins its work. Silently, invisibly, but with frightening precision. That's why your spiritual atmosphere matters. Your home is not just a space, it's a sanctuary. Your mind is not just a brain, it's a battlefield. And your emotions are not just feelings, they are spiritual instruments that can either welcome light or amplify darkness. So when your peace starts to erode without cause, when confusion creeps in uninvited, and when the air around you feels like it's carrying a weight you cannot explain, it may be time to look beyond the physical. Witchcraft always leaves a residue. It pollutes the atmosphere with fear, anxiety, and unrest. But to see it, you must become still enough to feel what's no longer pure. This is the beginning of awareness. Before you can fight, you must recognize. Before you can reclaim your peace, you must acknowledge that it was stolen. And that moment, when you finally admit the atmosphere has shifted, is the first crack through which divine light can begin to break back in. You experience unexplained confusion or emotional turmoil. There is a certain kind of confusion that no amount of sleep, food, or logic can fix. It comes not from a lack of understanding, but from a clouding of spiritual vision. One moment you are walking with clarity and conviction, and the next everything is shrouded in uncertainty. This confusion is not ordinary. It is crafted, and when someone uses witchcraft against you, one of its most potent effects is to scramble your thoughts and emotions until you begin questioning everything, including your identity. Witchcraft targets the mind like a virus targets the bloodstream. Its aim is disorientation. It does not always arrive with drama or spectacle. It may come through a single word spoken in envy, a thought sent with ill intent, or a ritual done in secret. What matters is the energy behind it, and if successful, it begins to inject a fog into your internal world, dulling your discernment and distorting your emotional stability. You may begin to feel things that aren't yours to carry, sorrow that doesn't match your circumstances, anger with no source, panic with no trigger. It's like your heart is crying and your mind doesn't know why. This isn't mere mood fluctuation, it is spiritual intrusion. Witchcraft, when directed at you, acts like a hand reaching into your soul and rearranging the furniture without your permission. And suddenly, what was once clear becomes murky. Your calling feels distant. Your confidence feels counterfeit. People you loved now seem suspicious. Doubt wraps itself around your thoughts like ivy on a wall, and it tightens with every hour you let it grow unchecked. Even scripture may lose its resonance. You read it, but it doesn't reach you. You pray, but it feels hollow. This is not spiritual immaturity, it is spiritual interference. There's a reason the Bible often speaks of clarity, sound mind, and peace. These are not just virtues, they are protections. And when they are replaced by confusion, scattered thoughts, and emotional upheaval, it's a sign that something deeper is at work. Witchcraft aims to steal your spiritual compass, to make you wander in the wilderness of your own mind until you collapse in surrender. This emotional turmoil can also isolate you. You pull away from people, you misread their intentions, you begin interpreting silence as rejection and kindness as manipulation. Your emotional senses become overloaded and unreliable, and in the confusion, the voice of the enemy becomes louder than the voice of God. But here's the key: confusion is never from God. His voice may be convicting, but it is never chaotic. His presence may humble you, but it never leaves you fragmented. So when your emotions feel like a storm, and your mind feels like a maze, it is time to examine what has entered your atmosphere, and more importantly, who has access to your spirit. Witchcraft thrives on confusion because it disables discernment, and a person without discernment is easily manipulated. You are not just under emotional attack, you are under spiritual surveillance. Someone, somewhere, is hoping you will fall apart quietly, that you will give up before you awaken. And yet confusion can be a gift, because when it comes from spiritual attack, it is also a sign that your spirit is resisting. It means the darkness has not yet overtaken you. Your soul is still aware that something is wrong, and in that awareness lies your power to rise. Feel disconnected from God and spiritually numb. The most devastating impact of witchcraft is not the chaos it brings into your outer world, but the silence it creates in your inner sanctuary. You don't wake up one morning and say, "God has left me." Rather, you begin to feel the subtle erosion of intimacy. What was once alive between your soul and God becomes a distant echo. Prayer becomes dry, worship becomes routine, scripture becomes mere words. The spiritual numbness is not accidental, it is engineered. When someone uses witchcraft against you, they are essentially reaching into the spiritual current that flows between you and your Creator, trying to divert or disrupt it. Witchcraft cannot destroy God's power, but it can distort your ability to receive it. It's like someone cutting the power lines to your house, not because the source of power is gone, but because the connection has been severed, and what follows is a deep sense of spiritual fatigue, disconnection, and confusion. Witchcraft does not need to touch your body to wound your spirit. It operates in silence, in the unseen, often targeting your hunger for God. The enemy knows that a soul fed by truth is unstoppable. So if he cannot destroy you directly, he will work to dry up your source. That's why witchcraft often makes you feel too tired to pray, too numb to feel God's presence, too overwhelmed to seek truth. You are not lazy. You are under spiritual siege. This numbness creeps in slowly. You might not even realize how far you've drifted until one day you find yourself going through spiritual motions without any life in them. You say the right words, but they have no weight. You attend the same places of worship, but your heart is hollow. You begin to wonder, has God withdrawn from me? But it's not God who moved. It's your atmosphere that's been polluted, and your spirit is suffocating in it. The disconnection is strategic. Witchcraft aims to isolate you from the one source of strength that can destroy its influence, divine truth. And the more disconnected you feel, the more you begin to question your own worth. You start to internalize the silence as punishment. You wonder if God is angry, or worse, indifferent. But these are lies, crafted lies, lies meant to fracture your trust in a God who has never stopped pursuing you. One of the most overlooked symptoms of witchcraft is spiritual indifference. You simply stop caring. You stop fighting, you stop hoping. It's not depression, it's demonic numbing. Your joy is not lost, it's been buried. Your fire is not gone, it's been smothered. But here's the truth. The very fact that you're noticing this disconnection means your soul still remembers what divine closeness feels like, and memory is a powerful weapon. Witchcraft thrives when you believe the silence is permanent. But the silence is a lie. Even when your mouth cannot form the words, your spirit can still groan, and heaven hears that groan. The danger is not in the absence of feeling, but in the acceptance of it. You must not accept numbness as your new normal. You must not agree with the disconnection. Your awareness of spiritual distance is evidence that you are still alive, still listening, still reachable. God has not gone silent. The frequency has been disrupted. The channel has been hijacked, but the signal still exists. And you still have the authority to tune back in. That authority doesn't come from emotion or energy. It comes from truth. Witchcraft can cast shadows, but it cannot cancel light. Your reconnection begins the moment you realize that your spirit is still seeking even through the fog. Your dreams become disturbed and symbolically violent. In the realm of dreams, the soul speaks in symbols. And when witchcraft is sent against you, the first place it often tries to enter is not your waking world, but your sleeping one. The dream world is sacred. It's a place where God has historically spoken to his people, warned them, comforted them, and revealed hidden truths. But it is also a battleground. And when someone attempts to use witchcraft against you, your dreams may become the front line of the war. What was once a place of rest becomes a place of restlessness. Peaceful sleep is replaced with strange, fragmented visions. You awaken tired, as if you were fighting all night in a war you don't remember signing up for. These are not random bad dreams. They are targeted invasions. Attempts to speak lies into your subconscious, plant fear into your spirit, and disrupt the soul's natural dialogue with God. Symbolic violence in dreams, being chased, attacked, drowned, falling endlessly. These are not always metaphors of anxiety. Sometimes they are indicators of spiritual warfare. When witchcraft is released, it often tries to insert terror into your dream life. This is not just to scare you, it's to plant seeds. If you accept the fear in your dreams, it begins to take root in your waking thoughts. And once fear settles, faith is pushed to the side. Another strategy is impersonation. Witchcraft may manifest in dreams through the faces of people you trust. speaking words of harm or betrayal. This causes confusion, suspicion, and division in your real-life relationships. Suddenly, you begin questioning people you once loved, doubting connections, and isolating yourself from those God actually sent to bless you. All of this begins with one manipulated dream. Then there are dreams of temptation, subtle and seductive. Witchcraft may try to introduce moral compromise into your spirit by presenting dark desires in the form of dreams. What your waking mind would reject, your sleeping soul might entertain if it is not guarded. And once the soul entertains sin in the dream realm, it begins to lower its defenses in the physical world. But not all dreams sent through witchcraft are violent. Some are deceivingly peaceful, offering false visions of success, love, or power, only to leave you confused when none of it manifests. These dreams are traps. They offer hope, not rooted in God's voice, but in counterfeit promises designed to detour you from your actual purpose. Your dreams matter. They are more than mental activity. They are spiritual mirrors, and when witchcraft begins to touch them, your spirit is signaling that something unclean has gained temporary access to your sacred spaces. But even in that space, you are not powerless. God can speak louder than any curse. Light travels faster than darkness, and your dreams, though disturbed, are not defiled beyond redemption. The presence of spiritual warfare in your sleep is not a sign that you are defeated. It is a sign that your spirit is valuable, valuable enough to be targeted, important enough to be watched, anointed enough to be opposed. And so the battle rages in the night. But not all battles are to be feared. Some are signs that heaven still sees you, still surrounds you, and still intends to awaken you. For even in dreams, truth fights back. You encounter delays, blockages, and energy drain. It is a strange thing to chase after your calling only to find the road ahead constantly broken. You set goals with sincerity, you take action with courage, and still something slows you down. Opportunities slip away for no reason. People who once supported you turn cold. The energy that once carried you forward now seems to have vanished like vapor. These aren't ordinary life delays. And often, when someone uses witchcraft against you, these delays are intentional, strategically placed to wear down your will. Witchcraft does not always scream in your face. More often it whispers behind your back. And its most subtle yet devastating tactic is delay. It attempts to build spiritual dams to block the rivers of blessing flowing toward you. These blockages are not visible to the eye. They are sensed in the soul. Something just isn't moving. Something is resisting. Something is holding things back. And you can't name it, but you feel it. You try to move forward, but the ground beneath you feels like quicksand. You pray, but the words feel stuck in your throat. You plan, but nothing aligns. You invest, but there's no return. One delay leads to another, and before long your passion turns into frustration. This is not laziness. It is not lack of effort. It is spiritual sabotage. What's most cruel about these blockages is how they mimic divine timing. You begin to question yourself. Maybe I'm not meant to succeed right now. Maybe God is teaching me patience. While it's true that divine delays are real, they are marked by peace, but delays caused by witchcraft are marked by confusion, exhaustion, and despair. You begin to feel drained, not just physically but spiritually. You sleep, but you're not rested. You eat, but you're not nourished. You exist in a constant state of fatigue, like a soul stuck between battles. Witchcraft, you see, does not just block opportunities, it drains vitality. It siphons energy through discouragement, disappointment, and repetitive failure until you feel too weak to try again. This exhaustion has a purpose. Witchcraft hopes you'll eventually surrender, not to peace, but to passivity. It wants you to become numb to delay, to accept it as your fate. It wants to wear down your prayers, your declarations, your persistence, until silence replaces effort and despair replaces faith. Sometimes the people around you can be the very instruments of this sabotage. Their words, soaked in envy, become spiritual nets. Their advice, coated in subtle doubt, becomes snares. Not everyone who delays you hates you. Some are simply spiritually unaware, speaking curses masked as concern. Witchcraft can use anything. It doesn't need a ritual. Sometimes it just needs an opening. But delays are not always signs of defeat. Sometimes they are signs that you are feared in the realm of darkness, that your obedience is so dangerous, your assignment so potent, your light so blinding, that the enemy feels threatened enough to send resistance. The presence of blockages is not the absence of purpose, it's the confirmation of it. Still, you must be vigilant. Do not allow repeated setbacks to become your theology. Do not adjust your vision to fit your delays. You were born to move forward, and anything that constantly pushes you back deserves investigation. What looks like failure may actually be warfare. And your fatigue may not be from doing too much, it may be from enduring too many invisible hits. You are not lazy, you are not cursed, but you may be under siege, and that awareness is not weakness, it is awakening. For only the awakened can clear what has been clouded, and only the aware can break what has been built to hold them back. You feel drawn to toxic people or patterns. One of the most deceptive effects of witchcraft is its ability to distort your spiritual compass, leading you to embrace what you should resist and reject what you should embrace. It's not always about cursing your life from the outside. Sometimes it's about leading you to destroy yourself from the inside, and nothing does that more effectively than toxic attachments. When witchcraft is used against you, it often plants confusion in the realm of relationships. You begin to feel drawn to people who drain you, relationships that break you, and patterns that sabotage your peace. These aren't just bad habits, they are spiritual setups. And the draw isn't logical, it's magnetic. It feels as though something is pulling you back to what you've already escaped. You may find yourself giving chances to people who have proven they are harmful. You overlook red flags. You excuse manipulation. You silence your intuition in favor of connection, even when that connection is eroding your soul. This is not weakness, it is spiritual manipulation. Witchcraft targets your emotional memory, making dysfunction feel familiar and safety feel foreign. This magnetic pull to toxicity doesn't always feel painful at first. Sometimes it masquerades as comfort. That friend who always has chaos around them, they seem exciting. That partner who keeps you in cycles of control and apology, they feel intense. That habit that makes you feel alive for a moment and dead afterward, it feels easier than healing. Witchcraft distorts your internal navigation until you mistake noise for love, control for care, and addiction for need. And in that distortion, your discernment is weakened. You stop trusting your spiritual instincts. You begin to second-guess every decision. People who once brought you peace now create anxiety, and yet you cannot walk away. You are tethered not by affection, but by influence. An influence designed to keep you bound. Witchcraft doesn't just attack your circumstances, it rewires your patterns. It hopes to lead you back to the very environments God called you out of. It tries to convince you that chaos is your home, that dysfunction is your identity, that suffering is your soulmate. And because your spirit has been worn down by the previous attacks, by the confusion, by the fatigue, by the disconnection, you lack the strength to resist the familiar prison. But these toxic patterns are not merely unhealthy, they are spiritually engineered. There is often someone behind the scenes whose jealousy, envy, or bitterness has opened a spiritual door. Their intention may not be to curse you openly, but their energy feeds the witchcraft working against you. Sometimes it's a friend smiling in your face while resenting your growth. Sometimes it's a relative speaking negativity over your choices. Words become weapons. Intentions become influences, and if your soul is unguarded, these forces begin to shape your reality. This pull toward toxicity is not just emotional, it's spiritual sabotage. And the most dangerous part is that it feels natural. You find yourself choosing the familiar over the free. Not because you're weak, but because the war is happening in places you cannot see. But even in the pull, there is a deeper truth. If the enemy is trying that hard to reconnect you to destruction, it means you've already moved closer to your destiny. The closer you get to light, the louder darkness becomes, and every attempt to entangle you again is proof that your freedom is terrifying to hell. You are being spiritually tested and called to rise in authority. There is a moment in every spiritual journey where the soul is pressed against the wall, not to be crushed, but to be carved. When witchcraft rises against you, when your clarity turns to confusion, when peace is stolen, when dreams are disturbed and delays become your daily companion, it may seem like you're losing, but in the hidden chambers of heaven, something more powerful is unfolding. You are not just being attacked, you are being tested, and not for the sake of judgment, but for the sake of elevation. Spiritual warfare is never random. Hell never wastes its weapons on the indifferent. The fact that witchcraft was directed at you should not make you afraid. It should make you aware that you are seen. Your life is not ordinary. Your voice is not background noise. Your future is not neutral. You are chosen for something weighty, and the battle you are facing is proof of the assignment you carry. Witchcraft does not oppose those who have nothing to offer the kingdom of God. It goes after those whose very presence is disruptive to darkness. It attacks the ones who are healers, truth-tellers, restorers, warriors in disguise. You have likely been targeted not because of what you have done, but because of who you are becoming. And that is why the attack feels so personal. It is not about your past. It is about preventing your future. This season of spiritual heaviness may feel like punishment, but in truth, it is preparation. You are being introduced to a realm of authority you didn't even know you carried. The fire has come not to burn you down, but to burn away everything weak, everything false, everything unrooted. Because the next level of your life requires discernment. It requires resilience. It requires a faith that has been tested and found unshakable. When witchcraft is used against you, it pushes you into one of two directions: submission or transformation. You either break under the pressure or break through into a new dimension of power, and that decision isn't made by circumstance. It's made by response. Your response to this warfare determines the atmosphere of your future. But here's the deeper truth. God often allows what he could easily block because he intends to use the battle as a training ground. He is not the author of evil, but he is the redeemer of all things. And what was meant to curse you can become your classroom. What was designed to kill you can become the very soil where your authority is born. You are being called to rise, not just emotionally or mentally, but spiritually. To rise in authority means to no longer live like a victim of the invisible. It means recognizing who you are in the spirit realm and walking like you believe it. It means speaking with the conviction that your words carry power, that your prayers shake atmospheres, and that your very presence shifts rooms. The attack against you is an invitation to deepen your relationship with God, to activate your spiritual gifts, to cleanse your atmosphere, to break generational cycles, and to stand in the identity heaven gave you before witchcraft ever tried to define you. You don't just survive these seasons, you become someone else in them, someone stronger, someone wiser, someone more dangerous to the forces of darkness. And the authority you gain in this fire is not just for you, it's for others too. You will walk others through what tried to destroy you. You will discern what others ignore. You will pray with fire, speak with clarity, and carry a peace that no spell can touch. This is your awakening. You are not cursed. You are being carved into a vessel fit for divine power. And every tear, every dream, every moment of exhaustion will one day become the proof that you were not defeated. You were being transformed. So when the weight feels unbearable, when the fog returns, when delays persist, and the voice of witchcraft tries to whisper, "You're not enough," remember this: your authority is being birthed in the silence. You are not weak, you are being trained. You are not forgotten, you are being called higher. What happens spiritually when someone uses witchcraft against you is far more than an attack. It is a revelation of who you are, a revelation of what you carry, a revelation of the war between light and darkness that rages not just in the world, but within the soul of every believer. But in every battle there is a promise. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, not because the weapon isn't real, but because your God is greater. You may have felt the shift. You may have walked through the confusion. You may have cried out from the numbness, wrestled with distorted dreams, faced strange delays, and found yourself bound to patterns you thought you'd escaped. But through it all, heaven has not been silent. God has been watching, recording, guarding, preparing, and now He is calling you to rise, calling you to reclaim your atmosphere, calling you to sever the ties that witchcraft tried to bind, calling you to purify your space, renew your mind, speak with boldness, and walk in truth. You were never meant to live under the influence of darkness. You were born to carry light, not just for yourself, but for a generation too tired to fight for their own freedom. You are more than a survivor of witchcraft. You are a testimony of grace, a carrier of fire, a walking rebuke to every curse sent your way. And the very people who tried to send you into spiritual silence will live to see you speak with divine authority. They will watch, stunned, as you rise, not with vengeance, but with clarity, with peace, and with power they cannot imitate or stop. So breathe again, pray again, rise again, because what they tried to destroy, God is about to use as the foundation for your elevation. And no darkness, no ritual, no curse can stop what heaven has ordained.